Espiritu, Villegas, Almendras, Tenorio, Lucidan, Aguila, Laresma, Agaraso. 14.
Sir, kasama ko po si Kia Malaluan po.
Ah, nandiyan sa inyo.
Opo.
Teka, kumakaroon mo yun? Bebes. Bebes. Magaluwa. 15. Kulang pa. Vision. 15, 16. Wala pa yung dalawa. Ito ba yung nawawalang dalawa? Wala, sino yung nawawalang dalawa? Okay. So, ibang pag-usapan natin. Ngayon. About the entity and its environment. The entity and its environment. I think this is a very, very important topic, no? In auditing. Magugulat ka na lang na ang dami mo palang dapat i-consider, ano? Sa auditing. The entity and its environment. Kasama na dito yung ano, the industry where the auditee or your client belongs, ano? Kung ang client ko ay bangko, wait, banking industry. Ang environment dito and the entity, kung ano yung bank accounting. Okay. So this is our topic in auditing this afternoon. And we have 3 to speak on this topic. Okay. Ket, may start?
Yes po, sir. Kita na po.
Oo, ang ganda. Ay.
Yan. Start na po. Chapter 10, Understanding the Entity and its Environment. Introduction. This chapter discusses the process of obtaining an understanding of the entity and its environment and assessing the risk of material misstatement in a financial statement audit as required by PSA 315 clarified, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatements through understanding the entity and its environment, and effective for audit of financial statements for periods beginning on or before December 15, 2009. So, madidiscuss daw natin dito sa chapter na to yung mga proseso na kailangan upang manawaan ang takbo ng isang entity. Gayon din yung mga risk of material misstatement sa isang financial statement audit base na din sa PSA 315. Yung material misstatement, ito yung mga maling information sa financial statement na makakaapekto sa decision making ng isang entity. Isa rin siyang misrepresentation of financial statement items gaya ng amount, classification, presentation, or disclosure. It either come due to error or fraud. Phase 1-C, performance of risk assessment procedures to identify, assess risk of material misstatement through understanding the entity. PSA 315 clarified deals with the auditor's responsibility to identify and assess the risk of material misstatements in the financial statements through understanding of the entity and its environment, including its internal control. The standard present an overview of the requirements such as, so parang ano, sinasabi dito na responsibilidad daw ng mga auditors na mangalap ng reasonable assurance tungkol sa financial statement na magpapakita na ito ay walang naiprepresent na material statement. The standard present an overview of the requirements such as risk assessment procedures and sources of information about the entity and its environment, including its internal control. Number two, understanding the entity and its environment, including its internal control. Number three, identifying and assessing the risk of material misstatements. Number four, material weakness in internal control. And number five, documentation. For number one, risk assessment procedure and sources of information about the entity and its environment, including its internal control. Obtaining an understanding of entity and its environment, including its environment control, is a continuous dynamic process of gathering, updating, and analyzing information through the audit. So, para daw lubos na maunawaan ang isang entity at yung environment nito, ito daw ay dumadaan sa continuous dynamic process of gathering, updating, and analyzing information, which is yung parang ina-update yung mga information na pwedeng mabago dun sa reporting period through the audit. As described of PSA 500, audit procedure to obtain an understanding are referred as the risk assessment procedure, because some of the information obtained by performing such procedures may be used by the auditor as audit evidence to support assessment of the risk of material misstatement. So, ang ginagamit daw ng procedure ng mga auditors ay tinatawag na risk assessment procedure. Ang risk assessment procedure ay ang isang information na isang procedure na ang mga information na nakalap dito ay ginagamit ng auditor as audit evidence na susuporta sa assessment ng risk of material misstatement. In addition, in performing risk assessment procedures, the auditor may obtain audit evidence about the classes of transaction, account balances, or disclosures as related assertions, and about the operating effectiveness of control, even though such audit procedures were not specifically planned as substantive procedure or a test of control. So parang ina-audit dito or parang ina-assess ng procedure na to na makakakuha ng evidence na nakapaloob sa parang ina-examine niya yung transaction, account balances, and disclosure na meron sa isang entity. The auditor may choose to perform substantive procedure or test control concurrently with risk assessment procedure because it is efficient to do so. Pwede din siyang gumamit ng substantive procedure or yung test control upang ma-assess nga nila yung risk of material misstatement. Risk assessment procedure. The auditor should perform the following risk assessment procedure to provide the basis for the identification and assessment of risk of material misstatements of the financial statement and assertion levels. ito yung mga yung risk assessment procedure na pwedeng gamitin ng isang auditor para ma-identify yung risk of material misstatements. Number one, letter A pa lang, inquiries of management and other within the entity. B, analytical procedures, and letter C, observation and inspection. The auditor is not required to perform all risk assessment procedures described above for which of aspect of the understanding described in paragraph 20 of PSA 315. However, all the risk assessment procedures are performed by the auditor in the course of obtaining the required understanding. Pwede nilang hindi magamit yung itong tatlong um, risk procedure na binanggit dito, pero pwede siyang magamit para ma-obtain yung required understanding. For letter A, yung inquiries, in addition, the auditor performs other audit procedures where the information obtained may be helpful in identifying risks of material misstatements. Ito daw yung pag-inquiries daw, isa pa daw siyang way para ma-identify ng mga auditor yung risk of material misstatements. For example, the auditor may consider making inquiries of entities external legal counsel or of valuation expert that the entity has used. So, pwede daw sila mag-conduct ng inquiry sa mga external legal counsel ng isang entity. Reviewing information obtained from external sources such as reports by analysts, banks, and rating agencies. Trade economic journal or regulatory financial publication may also be useful in obtaining information about the entity. Pwede din silang kumuha ng mga information din sa mga material sources or ng isang entity. Although much of the information of auditor obtains by inquiries can be obtained from management and other responsible for financial reports, inquiries of other within the entity such as production and internal audit personnel and other employees with different level of authority may be useful in providing auditor with a different perspective in identifying risk of material misstatement. So, pwede rin tayo mag-conduct ng inquiries dun sa management mismo ng isang entity para makuha natin yung mga information na kakailangan natin para ma-identify kung yung bang financial statement na presented ay may risk of material misstatement. In determining other within the entity to whom inquiries may be directed and the extent of those inquiries, the auditor considers what information may be obtained that helps the auditor in identifying risk of material misstatements. For example, inquiries directed towards those charged with governance may help the auditor understand the environment in which the financial statements are prepared. So, pwede daw mag-conduct ng mga inquiries directed to those charged with governance or sa mga tao or sa organization na responsible sa strategic direction and accountability ng isang entity. Inquiries directed toward internal audit personnel may relate to their activities concerning the design and effectiveness of the entity's internal control and whether management has satisfactory responsible to any findings from their activities. So, yung internal audit personnel related naman siya sa operational activities ng mga entity. Sila yung kumikilatis kung nasunod ba yun ng company yung proper procedures and kung nagpa-function ba siya ng ayos. Inquiries of employees involving initiating, processing, and recording complex or unusual transactions may help the auditor in evaluating the appropriateness of the section and application of certain accounting policies. Parang dito naman, naka-involve dito yung mga employees na nagawa ng mga reports or yung mga transaction ng isang entity. Inquiries directed toward in-house legal counsel may related to such matter as litigation, compliance with law and regulation, knowledge of fraud or suspected fraud affecting the entity, warranties, post-sales obligation arrangement such as joint ventures with business partners and the meaning of the contract terms. Parang dito naman, ang involved naman sa inquiries na to, yung mga regulators within the company. Sila yung pwede natin pagkuhanan din ng mga information para ma-assess natin yung isang financial statement kung may risk of material misstatement. And last, inquiries directed toward marketing or sales personnel may relate to changes in the entity's marketing strategies, sales trends, or contractual arrangement with its customers. Parang ipinapakita naman dito yung mga kung yung marketing sales personnel, sila naman yung nag-represent kung yung pagbabago ba ng strategy ay nakaka-affect dun sa financial statement or nagkaroon ba siya ng sanhi dun sa maaaring risk of material misstatements. Yun lang po.
Okay. Kit, may nabanggit kang governance, ano? Inquiries directed towards those charged with governance help the auditor understand the environment in which the financial statements are prepared. Matanong ko lang, Ken, sino ba talaga yung governance na yan? Sino yan? Who are those charged with governance? In a corporate setup. Inquiries directed towards those charged with governance may help the auditor understand the environment in which the financial statements are prepared. Sino ba yan? Sino yan, mga yan?
Yun po yung parang Commission of an Audit po.
Loud, clear nga. Sino yung mga taong charged with governance in a corporate setup? Sino yan? Sino tatanungin ng auditor?
Sir, sila po yung yung parang po, external regulator, which is yung mga Commission of Audit po.
Plus, anybody can answer my question. Tatanungin daw ng auditor, yung mga those in charge with governance. Sino yun? Anybody who can answer my question? Kayo naman tapos na kayo dito, inaralan nyo to. Anybody who can answer my question? Ano si Kate Ann? Kate Ann Laresma?
Yes po, sir.
I-inquire daw yung mga taong charged with governance. Sino yun?
Sir, yung nasa management po, like board of directors.
Okay, your answer is correct. Kaya lang, okay. Now, the answer class is, kapag sinabing governance in the corporate setup, sila yung mga nag-iisip ng paraan ng pagpapatupad alinsunod sa mga compliances na dapat nilang sa katuparan ma-observe yung mga rules and regulations na sumasakop sa kanila. At yung governance na yan ay yung board of directors, Board of directors. Na ang unang gagawin ng board of directors ay magko-constitute sila ng management personnel. Ang pinakamataas diyan, president. No? President. In many cases, yung president is one of the directors. one of the directors. Kaya ako naman tinatanong, Kate, nakita ko doon sa curriculum, tapos na kayo ng governance, ethics, internal control, risk management. So yun ang board of directors ang tamang sagot doon. Sino yung i-interviewin, tatanungin ng auditors. So you see at this point, ang daming tatrabahuhin ng auditor. Ang daming niyang kakausapin. Ang daming niyang aalamin. Hindi mawala ng tatrabahuhin ang auditor. Parang accountant, Hindi ka lang mauubusan ng tatrabahuhin. Ang mauubos sa iyo, yung laang oras para mag-accounting, para mag-auditing. Okay, so we go to the next speaker this evening, Charisma.
A pleasant day, everyone. I am Kate, and this late afternoon, I will be continuing the discussion about the risk assessment procedures, and will be also elaborating on one of the things that an auditor.
Kate,
Pa,
the next topic here, ewan ko kung nabuo mo, kasi putol ata yung report
sir.
mo, yung beginning, putol.
Opo.
Kasi
Ano po kami ni...
Nagsisimula ka sa observe.
Hindi po, sir. Nag-usap po kami ni Miss Ket po
Kasi
na ako na lang po mag-start ng analytical procedures.
Sino ko? Sino itong sasalita?
Pa?
Kate, ikaw ba ang sasalita? Ikaw, no?
Opo.
Oo. Yung analytical procedure. Ano ba yan? Ano bang ginagawa niya? Then after that, merong letter C. Observation and inspection. O sige, Kate, kung atang sasalita about analytical procedures, sige.
Kate po, sir.
Okay.
Okay. So now we are on the next step, analytical procedures. This says, analytical procedures may be helpful in identifying the existence of unusual transactions or events and amounts, ratios, and trends that might indicate matters that have financial statement and audit implications. Dito po muna tayo sa unang sentence. So itong analytical procedures ay may purpose kung bakit part siya ng risk assessment procedures. Sa pamamagitan nito, posibleng makita ni auditor ang mga pangyayari na may tuturing na unusual on their end. Mahalaga kasi na malaman agad if yung unusual events na yun or amounts, ratios, and sa financial statements and audit nila in the future. To continue, in performing analytical procedures as risk assessment procedures, the auditor develops expectations about possible relationships that are reasonably expected to exist. Ang unang bagay na ginagawa sa step na ito ay to develop expectations or benchmark doon sa recorded amounts and ratios. Kasi dito, auditors are trying to find plausible relationships sa bawat data na nakakalap nila. Kung mangyari si ganito, ano kaya ang magiging effect niya? Ganon. For example, ang sales ni entity in the past 3 years ay tumataas. Therefore, the auditor may expect na this year may pagtaas din kasi may evidences in the past. Kasi nga ina-analyze natin ang plausible relationships ng mga bagay-bagay, kaya madali din mag-expect ng possible range of amounts, fluctuations, or whatever naman na possible mangyari. At kung meron niyang plausible relationship, madali din natin makikita kung may unusual transactions or amount nga. Like ano to, ano nangyari. Yun ang analytical procedures. To continue, when comparison of those expectations with recorded amounts or ratios developed from recorded amounts yields unusual or unexpected relationships, the auditor considers those results in identifying risk of material misstatement. However, when such analytical procedures use data aggregated at a high level, which is often the situation. The results of those analytical procedures only provide a broad initial indication about whether a material misstatement may exist. Accordingly, the auditor considers the results of such analytical procedures with other information gathered in identifying the risk of material misstatement. So, dito kailangan din natin kailangan i-test ni auditor ang materiality. Kumbaga need alamin kung yung difference ba ng amounts expectations ay accepted and di na need ng investigation. In short, pasok sa allowable difference. And when the time comes na need na ni auditor compare yung expectations niya with the official records, at itong pangyayari na ito ay napatunayan na significant ang differences, then the auditor need to investigate. Si auditor, gagamitin niya ang resulta na ito as an initial indication or para malaman agad kung may mag-exist ba na risk ng material misstatement, lalo na kung may fraud na involved. Again, material misstatement means may error sa pagpapahayag ng financial statements. Pwedeng hindi nagma-match, pwede rin hindi nagko-confirm sa standards, or may mga inaccuracies na maaaring makaapekto sa economic decisions ng mga taong umaasa doon sa financial statements. So, may tuturing talaga siyang risk. Kaya mahalaga tong analytical procedures. See PSA or Philippine Standards on Auditing number 520 under analytical procedures for additional guidance on the use of analytical procedures. So to sum it up, dito sa step na to, first to do is to develop expectations from recorded amounts and ratios. Then second, determine natin kung yung difference ba ay acceptable at di na need investigahan. Then third, compare na natin kung may unusual event nga ba. Then fourth, dalawa lang yan. If no, then good. If yes, the auditor needs to investigate. Then another procedure is observation and inspection. Observation and inspection may support inquiries of management and others and also provide information about the entity in its environment. So yung auditor pwede magtanong sa management. Ngayon, kung hindi sapat sa kanya, yun na yung inquiries kanina. Ngayon, kung hindi sapat sa kanya o sabihin na nating mas gusto ni auditor makita ng actual, mag-o-observe siya at mag-i-inspect. So dito sa observation, maaaring mag-observe si auditor ng client kung ano at paano nila ginagawa yung trabaho nila. Sa inspection naman, pwede mag-inspect si auditor ng mga documents ng entity. So, such audit procedures ordinarily include following. First, observation of entity activities and operations. So, like what I've said, si auditor pwede ng internal situations ng isang entity kung ano is, especially as a management. Then second one, inspection of documents such as business plans and strategies, records, and internal control manuals. Nagsusuri din si auditor ng mga papers ng entity. Baka kasi hindi na nagre-reflect yung pinagsusulat nila sa aktual na nangyayari. Kagaya sa business plans, baka malayo. So, need ng inspection. Then third, reading reports prepared by management such as quarterly management reports and interim financial statements and those charged with governance such as minutes of board of directors meeting. So binabasa din ng auditor ang mga reports na ginagawa ng management, pati na din yung mga taong responsible in overseeing the entity's strategic direction or yung BOD. Then fourth, visits to the entity's premises and plant facilities. Kung dito sa una ay mga pinaggagawa o yung mga proseso ang sinisiyasat, dito naman ay yung mga kagamitan. Like, ayos pa ba? Sumusunod ba sa protocol? Safe ba sa yun, ganun. Then lastly, tracing transaction relevant to financial reporting or walkthroughs. Binabaybay din ng auditors ang mga transaction gamit ang information system nila kasi need siguraduhin na si entity ay nauugnay sa financial reporting. When the auditor intends to use information about the entity in its environment obtained in prior periods, the auditor should determine whether changes have occurred that may affect the relevance of such information in the current audit. So, kapag gagamitin ni auditor ang information ng entity at ng environment nito on the past periods, dapat matukoy ng auditor kung ang mga pagbabago ba na naganap ay maaaring makaapekto sa kaugnayan o relevance ng naturang information sa kasalukuyang pag-audit. So, mahalaga dito ang relevance kasi baka mamaya, let's say, audit ng audit, i-obsolete na naman pala ang information, di madaming masasayang. So, for continuing engagements, the auditor's previous experience with the entity contributes to the understanding of the entity. For example, previous audits ordinarily provide audit evidence about the entity's organizational structure, business and controls, as well as information about past misstatements and whether or not they were corrected on a timely basis, which assists the auditor in assessing risk of material misstatement in the current audit. Siyempre, ang auditor, yung mga audit niya ay nakakadagdag understanding yan sa entity. Even the owner itself, nakikita ang benefits niyan kasi hindi naman lahat ng area ay expertise ni owner. So, mag-hire siya ng professionals, magwe-welcome siya ng auditors, syempre to increase credibility. Sabi sa halimbawa dito, ang mga audit procedures na isinasagawa sa mga nakaraang audit ay karaniwang nagbibigay daw ng audit evidence tungkol sa istruktura ng organization, sa mga control, pati na rin ang information tungkol sa mga nakaraang misstatements at kung ang mga ito ba ay naitatama o hindi on a timely basis, na siya namang tumutulong sa auditor sa pagtatasa para sa kasalukuyang audit. Di ba sa nga, mahalaga ang past records sa analytical problema ba nasisigla in the future. Kay entity naman, napakahalaga ng audit kasi walang papansin sa entity kung hindi audited ang financial statements nila. To continue, however, such information may have been rendered irrelevant by changes in the entity or its environment. The auditor makes inquiries and performs other appropriate audit procedures, such as walkthroughs of systems, to determine whether changes have occurred that may affect the relevance of such information. Ngayon, kung may mga pagbabago sa entity at sa environment nito, maaaring marked as irrelevant na ang mga information na nag-gather ni auditor kasi syempre may changes. Kaya naman, the auditor will perform appropriate and necessary inquiries and audit procedures kagaya ng walkthroughs of systems. Ito ay yung pag-test ng reliability and effectiveness ng systems ng isang entity upang matukoy kung makakaapekto kaya ang pagbabagong sinasabi sa kaugnayan o relevance ng naturang information. When relevant to the audit, also considers other information such as that obtained from or continuous process or where practicable experience gained on other engagements performed for the entity. For example, engagements to review interim financial information. So kung kabaligtaran naman at makikita o mapapatunayan na relevant sa audit ang nakolekt ng information, madaming isasalang-alang si auditor na ano information kagaya nga ng mga nabanggit dito, pagtanggap ng client ni auditor, yung proseso ng pagpapatuloy or engagement, pwede rin namang yung karanasang nakuha sa iba pang mga pakikipag-ugnayan gaya ng pagsuri ng interim financial information ng entity. The members of the engagement team should discuss the susceptibility of the entity's financial statements to material misstatements. Ngayon, ito ang mahalagang gawin sakaling ganito nga ang sitwasyon. Dahil nga nakita na may epekto o yung relevant niyang sinasabi, dapat talakayin ng mga miyembro ng engagement team ang pagiging susceptible o pagiging prone ng financial statement ng entity material misstatements. Bakit? Kasi na magsagawa ng economic decisions ang nakatataas. So yes, results can be really disastrous on the part of the entity na dahil lang sa misstatement. Then we go on to this 2, understanding the entity and its environment, including its internal control. The auditor's understanding of the entity and its environment consists of an understanding of the following aspects. So, ang pagkilala po ni auditor sa entity ay hindi lang ang business name nito, kung sino ang owner, ilan ang branch, ilan ang employees, or kung ano pa mang mga mabababaw o madaling malaman na bagay-bagay. Sabi po dito sa topic na to, madaming aspeto ang kailangan na iintindihan ng auditor sa entity. At ito nga po ang mga sumusunod. A, relevant industry, regulatory, and other external factors including the applicable financial reporting. So, sabi po dito relevant. So, dito sa industry factors, kailangan po natin syempre ma-identify muna ang industry na kinabibilangan ng entity. Kung kamusta market dito, yung purchasing powers ng customers, lalo na ang competitions, saka kung seasonal ba ang activity ni entity o hindi. Dito naman po sa regulatory factors, ano ba ang accounting principles and practices na kailangan gamitin. Kasama na din po dito yung legislation, taxation, government policies, at di pwedeng kalimutan ang environmental requirements. Then dito naman po sa other external factors, Kasama dito yung economic condition ng bansa, yung general economic condition ng bansa. Like inflation rate, interest rates, yan, ganun. Then dito naman sa B, the nature of the entity including one, its operation. So, sino ba si entity? Ano ba ang sources ng revenue ni entity? Mga key customers at suppliers niya. Yung geographic dispersion and yun, mga ganon. Then dito naman po sa number 2, its ownership and governance structures. So, anong type of ownership ba si entity? Sole proprietor ba to? Partnership or corporation? Then, dito naman sa governance structures, meron ba siya board? Then, 3, the types of investments that the entity is making and plans to make. Dito naman, investment plans ni entity. Ano mga ina-acquire niya at ano ang mga binibenta niya. Kasi, risky din ang investments. Baka mamaya magka-substantial loss si entity sa kanyang pinagagawang investments. Then, number 4, the way that the entity is structured and how it is financed to enable the auditor to understand the classes of transactions, account balances, and disclosures to be expected in the financial statements. Dito naman, structuring and financing ang usapan. Need din aware si auditor sa distribution ng debt and equity ni entity. May associates ba to? Anong klaseng shares mayroon to? Yun, ganun. Then, letter C, the entity's selection and application of accounting policies, including the reasons for changes thereto. The auditor shall evaluate whether the entity's accounting policies are appropriate for its business and consistent with applicable financial reporting framework and accounting policies used in the relevant industry. Paano ba nagre-report ang entity? Anong framework ang ginagamit niya? PFRS? Need alam ni auditor. Then letter D, the entity's objectives and strategies, and those related business risks that may result in risk of material misstatement. Ano ba ang gusto marating ni entity? At ano ang mga nakalakip na risk dito? Kasi baka mamaya mataas na pala ang risk of material misstatement ni entity. Then letter E, the measurement and review of entity's financial performance. Ito naman, ano ba ang ganap kay entity? Going strong ba siya or pabagsak na? Need din alamin ni auditor. Then, the nature, timing, and extent of the risk assessment procedures performed depend on the circumstances of engagement, such as the size of and complexity of the entity and the auditor's experience with it. In addition, identifying significant changes in any of the above aspects of the entity from prior periods is particularly important in gaining a sufficient understanding of the entity to identify and assess risk of material misstatement. So, hindi po basta na lang magpe-perform ng risk assessment procedures auditors dahil isinasaalang-alang din po nila ang nature ito sa mga posibleng kaharaping, yun nga po, circumstances, bunga ng mga engagements. Kabilang daw po dito ang size at complexity ng entity. Bakit po kaya? Kasi po, for example, kung mas malaki at mas complicated si entity, mas mataas ang risk ng material misstatement and it's not the other way around. Gayun din ang karanasan ni auditor. Kasi kung may karanasan po si auditor sa entity, may possibility na ma-predict po niya kung may material misstatement na mag-i-exist o wala. Because kagaya nga po ng paulit-ulit ko pong sinasabi kanina, napakahalaga po talaga para kay auditor, lalo na sa topic na ito, ang past records ni entity. Ito po kasi ang gagamitin ni auditor para lumawak pa ang kanyang pag-unawa sa entity. Ang mga ito rin po ang kanilang ginagamit para malaman at pag-aralan na rin kung sakaling may risk nga po ng material misstatement. Ngayon, i-elaborate po natin kanina yung mga letters. A, industry, regulatory, and other external factors including the applicable financial reporting framework. The auditor should obtain an understanding regulatory and other external factors including the applicable financial reporting framework. So, nakabold po ito kasi vital po ang sinasabi dito. Bago mo na makilala ni auditor si entity ng lubos-lubusan, kailangan mo na maintindihan din niya ang industriyang kinabibilangan po nito, mga regulasyon na sinusunod at iba pang mga external factors. Bakit mo kaya laging may emphasis sa applicable financial reporting framework? Kasi isa po sa mahalagang ino-audit po ng auditor ay financial statements. Ngayon, kung di po in-apply ni entity ang framework na dapat niyang i-apply, doon pa lang po mataas na ang risk of material misstatement. Okay. To continue, these factors include industry conditions such as the competitive environment, supplier and customer relationships, and technological developments. The regulatory environment encompassing, among other matters, the applicable financial reporting framework, the legal and political environment, environmental requirements affecting the industry and the such as general economic conditions. Dito po, kagaya na sabi ko kanina, nagbigay po ng breakdown kung ano bang areas sa mga factors na ito ang kailangan. Sa industry conditions, nandyan nga po yung lagay ng competition. Alam market po ba ito? Nakaliwat kanan. And then, relasyon po ng supplier at customer. Nagkakasundo ba sila when it comes to like pricing? Then, technological development. Sa industry po ba na ni entity, every year may innovations, every month, every week. So, ito, pwede po itong pumasok sa trends. Then, sa regulatory environment naman po, strict compliant po ba si entity when it comes to regulations, both industry and government? Isama natin ang environment. Kasi baka mamaya may nilabag si entity, baka po hindi lang risk of material misstatement ang mangyari, kundi closure na. So, dapat alam din po ito ni auditor. Sa other external factors naman po, mas complex po ito kung tutuusin kasi uncontrollable part ni entity, like out of the entity's jurisdiction, interest rates, yun. The factors envisioned here include industry conditions such as the competitive environment, supplier and customer relationships, and technological developments. They also include the regulatory, legal, and political environment and general economic conditions. These factors may subject the client to specialized risks that may in turn affect the audit. Yun nga po, para inulit lang. So, sabi po dito, lahat nga daw po ng factors na ito ay subject si client sa mga specialized risks na pwedeng maka-apekto sa audit. Many firms have adopted a financial model to evaluate the client's industry that considers the attractiveness and other characteristics of the industry. Concerning the overall attractiveness of the industry, they consider such factors as. So madami pong firms, particularly audit firms, ang gumagamit ng financial model upang malaman kung kaaya-aya ba ang industry ni client. Kaya naman for them to see an industry and attractive, madami pong mga sinasaalang-alang. First to that is gaano po ba kadali o kahirap pumasok sa industriya ni client. Yan. Then second is strength of competitors. Kamusta po kaya ang competition sa industry ni client? Ano ang degree? Mataas ba o hindi? Mahalagang malaman po ito ni auditor kasi baka si entity o si client niya ayaw po magpasapaw. Kung ganun, at risk po ang kanyang financial statements kasi baka sa sobrang competitive po ni client, magsinungaling siya sa kanyang financial statements. Baka po overstate niya ang kanyang assets, talaga naman pong misstatement po yun. Then, sa number 3, bargaining power of suppliers of raw materials and labor. Dito naman, kailangan aware si auditor kung anong level ng pressure ang kaya at maaaring ilagay ng mga supplier kay entity. Gaano nila kayang baguhin ang kanilang mga prices, gaano nila kayang babasan ang supply, gaano ni suppliers kayang pababain ang kalidad ng kanilang raw materials and labor. Then last, bargaining powers of customers. Anong level naman ang maaaring ilagay ng mga consumer kay magbigay ng mas mataas na kalidad ng mga produkto, mas mahusay na serbisyo at mas mababang presyo. The other characteristics of the client's industry that are considered include factors such as economic conditions and financial trends, governmental regulations, changes in technology, and widely used accounting methods. So, hindi lang naman po limited dito sa apat na to ang isinasaalang-alang ni auditor. May iba rin pong factors like yun nga po, trends and changes. So, that's all for me lang po. Continuation will follow.
Okay. Very good. Very nice, no? Well said, well reported, and well interpreted. I like your reporting. Okay. So, we have the last reporter, Maderasa. Okay. Go, Maderasa.
Yun na po. Wait lang po. So,
Kate, ano ba ibig sabihin ng walkthrough? Kate, ano ibig sabihin ng walkthrough?
Sir, actual po si auditor na magche-check po ng like for example, information system po ng client.
Sinusundan-sundan niya, no? Para one point to another. Walk through niya. Retrace niya. Kunwari, from start point to the end point ng isang document, ng isang transaction. Uh,
So to continue po, the industry in which the entity operates may give rise to specific risks of material misstatement arising from the nature of the businesses or the degree of regulation. For example, long-term contracts may involve significant estimates of revenues and costs that give rise to risk of material misstatement. In such cases, the auditor considers whether the engagement team includes members with sufficient relevant knowledge and experience. Long-term contract, syempre it lasts for about 10 to 15 years po. So dapat si auditor po na knowledgeable siya sa mga taong involved sa contract na ito. Since matagal ang contract, members should have sufficient knowledge and experience para mas maging effective yung audit plan and procedures to mitigate the risk of material misstatement in the financial statements. Legislative and regulatory requirements often determine the applicable financial reporting framework to be used by management in preparing the entity's financial statements. In most cases, the applicable financial reporting framework will be that of the jurisdiction in which the entity is registered or operates and the auditor is based, and the auditor and the entity will have a common understanding of that framework. In some cases, there may be no local financial reporting framework, in which case the entity's choice will be governed by local practice, industry practice, user needs, or other factors. For example, the entity competitors may apply Philippine financial reporting standards, and the entity may determine that PFRS are also appropriate for its financial reporting requirements. The auditor considers whether local regulations specify certain financial reporting requirements for the industry in which the entity operates, since the financial statement may be materially misstated in the context of the applicable financial reporting framework if management fails to prepare the financial statement in accordance with such regulators. Sa financial reporting, dapat knowledgeable po si auditor kung anong mga regulations ang kailangang i-comply niya. Aside from that, sa regulatory compliance naman po, syempre dapat alam din ni auditor kung ano yung mga latest rules imposed by the government para sa employee at sa business po. Kumbaga, it's not just all about the financial reporting but also observing the rules po and local practice to ensure the integrity, safety, and ethical behavior po ng business or yung entity po na ino-audit ni auditor. Examples of matters an auditor may consider include the following: industry conditions, the market and competition, including the capacity and price competition. Next is cyclical or seasonal activity. Product technology relating to the entity's products, energy supply and cost. Regulatory environment, accounting principles and industry practices, regulatory framework for a regulated industry, legislation and regulation that significantly affect the entity's operations, regulatory requirements, direct supervisory activities, taxation, corporate and other, government policies currently affecting the conduct of the entity's business, monetary, including foreign exchange controls, fiscal, financial incentives, for example, yung government programs, tariffs, trade restrictions, environmental requirements affecting the industry and the entity's business. Other external factors currently affecting the entity's business, first is general level of economic activity. For example, is recession growth, interest rates, and availability of financing. Next is inflation, currency revaluation. Letter B, nature of the entity. The auditor should obtain an understanding of the nature of the entity. The nature of an entity refers to the entity's operations, its ownership and governance, the types of investment that it is making and plans to make, the way that the entity is structured and how it is financed. An understanding of the nature of an entity enables the auditor to understand the classes of transactions, account balances, and disclosure to be expected in the financial statements. So dito po, knowing the nature of entity helps the auditor to define and perform procedures that respond to such risk. Kailangan alam ni auditor kung revenue sources po ng entity, ano yung mga product, services na pinag-provide ni entity, at sino yung mga alliances nila. Kailangan alam din po ni auditor what kind of financing do they have in order for them to push forward and what kind of activities do they do po. To continue, what is the client's business model? Who are its major customers and suppliers? Particularly po itong nature of entity na to ay pinapertain niya ay sa business operation. What types of transaction does the client engage in? How are they accounted for? These are the types of questions that our auditors attempt to answer to obtain an understanding of the nature of the client. The auditor's understanding of nature of the client will include the client's competitive position, organizational structure, governance processes, accounting policies and procedures, ownership, capital structure, and product lines. Then the auditors turn their attention to the client's critical business processes and obtain an understanding of how these processes create value for the client's customers. Using a manufacturing company as an example, the auditors will obtain an understanding of first the process used to procure, store, and manage raw materials. Second, to process used to machine, assemble, package, and test products. Third is process used to create demand for products and services and to manage relations with customers. The process used to establish contract terms and to bill and collect receivables. The process used to take orders and deliver goods. The activities performed after the goods and services have been delivered. Installation, training, warranty, and customer service. The process used to acquire and maintain human resource and technology, including research and development. The entity may have a complex structure with subsidiaries or other components in multiple locations. In addition to the difficulties of consolidation in such cases, other issues with complex structures that may give rise to risk of material misstatement include the allocation of goodwill to business segments and its impairment, whether investments are joint ventures, subsidiaries, or investment accounted for using the equity method, and whether special purpose entities accounted for appropriately. So when it comes to investment and investment activities po ni entity, dapat knowledgeable po si auditor kung yung investment is specifically for joint ventures po ba or subsidiary. Kasi syempre po, katulad sa joint ventures, may allotted percentage po kung magkano yung hatian ng profit or kung may loss man. So para maiwasan po yung fraud at saka malicious transactions. An understanding of the ownership and relationship between owners and other people or entities is also important in determining whether related party transactions have been identified and accounted for appropriately. PSA 550 related parties provide additional guidance on the auditor's consideration relevant to related parties. So, ibig sabihin po nitong PSA 550 is Philippine Standard of Auditing. Ito po yung nagdi-deals with the auditor's responsibility relating to related party relationship and transactions in an audit of financial statements. So since hinihingi po ni accounting principles in the Philippines yung disclosure po ng financial statement ng certain related party, kailangan po masatisfied si auditor dun sa mga dinidisclose na information ng mga related party po. Kailangan po ay nire-review po ni auditor yung mga shareholder records po, yung mga list po ng principal holder, saka po nire-review din po ni auditor yung minutes of meeting ng shareholders and board of directors. So to continue, the auditor should obtain an understanding of the entity selection and application of accounting policies and consider whether they are appropriate for its business and consistent with the applicable financial reporting framework and accounting policies used in the relevant industry. The understanding encompasses the methods the entity used to account for significant and unusual transactions. Tapos na po.
Okay. Ah, wag mo na tatanggalin yan, no? Doon sa taas, may nabanggit kang ano, no? Yan yun. Binabasa ko di yung ano, special purpose entities, no? Very interesting yan, ano? Kasi marami ng actual cases sa states, pati yung mga auditing firm na habla, no? Because of that, dapat aware ang auditor sa existence ng mga special purpose entities, ano? Ibaba mo kaya? Ibaba mo. Baba. The entity may, ayun. Yan, no? Nasa taas. Subsidiaries or investments accounted for using the equity method, and whether the special purpose of entities are accounted for appropriately. No? Ano ba yung mga special purpose entities na yan? Ako, masyado ng complicated ang corporate structure, ano? Meron na sila tinatawag na special purpose entities na associate noong parent, ano? Para saan ba yung special purpose na yan? Kasi marami ng cases in the past, in the States, sa internet, umabot sa pati nga mga auditors, may mga nahabla, merong mga lisensyang binawi, meron pa mga nakulong, and the auditor should be aware, detecting the existence of these entities. Tinawag na special purpose, no? Kasi masyado na no? Sabi ko nga, complex ang mga structure ng corporations. Minsan baka yan ay special purpose para lamang mapaliit ang tax payable noong inyong client, ano? O di kaya marami pang tinatagong transactions, no? Na ang talagang real purpose is for the benefit of the management or top people in the organization. Na kung iyong susuriin, parang unethical, unethical. Tulad ng yung sinabi kong example, baka yun yung mga tax shield, ika nga, to absorb things na kung hindi mo i-consider, ganun dapat ang tax liability ng iyong ino-audit na client. So yung ba ang purpose ng entity yun? Kung tawagin ay mga sister companies, no? Na para magkabenta yung isa, no? Ilalagay doon sa isa. Tapos i-manipulate yung expenses. No? Very very complex design, but matagal na yan, no? Matagal na yan. At sabi ko nga, nasa internet, ng maraming cases. Kung mababasa nyo sa internet yung cases ng Enron, no? Marami sila no? Which used to be the leading in the world pagdating sa mga investments. Pero yun pa rin ang nangyari. Yun pa rin ang nangyari. And sabi ko nga, even the CPAs and auditors natakaso, nakulong, natanggalan ng lisensya. Kasi the auditors were aware of the existence of these special purpose entities at hindi properly disclosed kung ano ba't tinawag na special purpose yan. So you see, the basic, very basic knowledge, ano, if the auditor cannot exercise integrity, no? If he cannot be no, a reliable professional, if he cannot be a professional that can be relied upon, pwede namang wag niyang pasukin yung engagement, no? Okay. So, no more reporter at this point. Okay. No question. Oh, now here comes the point wherein we end our meeting for another interesting topic for us knowing more about auditing, the auditor, his clients, the environment inclusive of the industry your client belongs, and the effects of advances in technology. And you mentioned about the factors that may be difficult to control to the point that they are beyond control. Economic situations, inflation, and so many other things that the auditor should be knowing. Para lumalabas niyan, yung auditor ay candidate to be the to belong to the management of the corporation, so that the corporation may realize immediately its goals and objectives. Okay, so the next number, ito na naman tayo. Pahirapan na naman tayo din eh, at my side, end ko. Our photographer, this meeting, Wayne, Gus, you open your camera. Nakitulog na. Very nice listening to those lectures that long time ago, as an auditor, I know, para bang nagpe-play yung mga old music na ang sarap pakinggan sa tenga. No? Ganun yun eh, no? Okay. Oy, teka. Okay lang. Okay, rain. Hindi naman namulan maghapon eh, no? Okay, ready, you count. Yan. So, part ng inyong training, yung magpakita ng napakagandang attractive smile. Good evening. Bye-bye. Till we meet again next time.
Thank you po, sir.